Good evening, everybody. How are you? It's hot. If anyone not comfortable to sit desk, please sit on chair and walk. Okay? Whatever relax. Try to relax, maybe chairs, put some more cushions.
So I'm very happy to have this opportunity to discuss about Buddha's teaching.
Very good. Too loud. It's okay.
Can you hear?
Can you hear?
No.
Are you here?
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody have to hear his voice for me, no problem.
So there are many different kind of teachings or different religions in this world. And there are so many people who don't believe in any religions. So whether to believe in religion or not is up to oneself, right? So sometimes there are more problems within the community of the people who believe in religions. So that is mainly because of people not having respect towards each other's religions. In my case, I have respect towards all the religions. That's because I don't know which religion is good and which religion is bad. I don't know how to separate them like that. So actually, all these religions or teachings are for the benefit of sentient beings. And what sentient beings want is happiness, and what they don't want is the suffering. So as a means to bring the happiness they want and to be free from the suffering they don't want, and they practice the religion or teachings. So in my case, I have respect towards all the religions, but what I'm studying is the Buddhism. study Buddhism, practice Buddhism, is because I follow my parents, because my parents used to practice, follow that, and therefore I happen to follow as well.
What today by that social Yamne Cherry, Chulu to my budget, the Cherry, Chulu Shimbatu Yabomatna, and they Yabomat.
So just because you don't believe in that religion or you don't practice that religion, if you say that religion is not good, then that's not a good reason.
Color away that Jaha color, Yami color, that show color, Kanga, India, that meal Kaji, that's support factor.
So all different kinds of food that are there is to sustain the body, right? Whether it's the Indian food or Chinese food or Western food, whatever kind of food it is mainly to sustain the body, right?
Yeah, no so which color,
but there are different kind of foods, right? Some people favor this food, some people favor that food. So it depends on individuals.
It is that so color de la Magawa didn't color Yabo Barcelona.
So just because you don't like that food, and if you say that food is not good because you don't like it, then that's not a good reason, right? That's not a valid reason, right?
The better, color cuts over. Color Mamu didn't go here. Color cuts over, Sammy, color Mamu Yabo in Malabna. So Chibu, that comes on.
So some people they like spicy food, some people they like only sweet foods. So just because you don't like spicy food, if you say that spicy food is not good, then that's not a good reason, right?
We love spicy food. We love spicy food, go to Indian restaurant or Chinese restaurant. Especially Chinese Sichuan restaurant, they're very hot. We love to sweet food, go to Thai restaurant, there are a lot of sweet things. Right? I don't know. Then we go to American restaurant, there are a lot of sweet things. Anyway, today about the time I'm going to Shulu said the Kerala Walla, that's just also Reva Chuni. Reva Chusa, was.
So the teaching, that we believe in, we sort of take refuge in them. We entrust in those teachings, right?
Today, that Reva Chak, which is the Cardina and Suzuchi Gangasan, Mandewashi, Susan, Trendy, that they are tired, Tashido.
So what you're hoping, from entrusting yourself in those teachings, is that you're hoping to be free from the sufferings that you don't want, right? To be liberated from the sufferings.
Today, the talk come there, I think I'm going to say to my years.
So the suffering that we don't wish or we don't want are two kinds. That's the physical sufferings and the mental sufferings.
And the lady doing a say, and the Sholokuchi, that drinking. And the Latin, that's a two years.
So usually, the physical suffering can be resolved or eradicated by depending on external means.
And it's better, Nasado, Commodore, Chichin, now, and then background, maybe some matter of that. This part only.
So if we have sore or pain in our head or leg and so forth in our body, then we can consult the doctor, and the doctors can either give you medicine to get rid of that suffering, or take that part of the body away, so that you will not have to experience those sufferings and so forth. So by doing that, you can be free from those physical sufferings, right?
Yeah. Today, Manjuga, Nathan, Kanye, the Taya, Cheddar, and Suzu, Jesus, the book, Chashi, get the coach was.
And so in order to be free from these sufferings, even if we have to be separate from our part of the body, and we are willing to do that, right? And so if the doctor says you have to cut a part of the body and throw it away, then we'll say no, right? They say, oh, we say yes, we'll
소소 가시고 가라데 마다라다 나도 딱 같이 더 절제하고 저기 왔어.
And then also, if the doctor says we should not eat that food, that's the most favorite, our most favorite food, then we also listen and try to compete, right?
Right? The people, the doctor asks for us, don't eat that, don't do this maybe for us more best things. Right? Because we eat more than, we like them, we eat more than they cost for us, right? For example, I don't know how many rice. Many people doesn't like brown rice, right? Even me, they just put my mouth, it doesn't go through. I like to, white rice, always dollars. White rice is very bad because we eat them more, kids like to sweet. They like to eat more, then they no problem. Therefore, when doctors ask me, they don't get this, that thing. Not 100%, but most, that's also Gashu Karadan was.
So we will stop even the most favorite food, right?
Then we say, okay, sorry.
So we stop eating those food unwillingly, right? And so the reason why we stop eating those food is because we want to be free from our physical sufferings. We want our body to be comfortable, right? And so therefore, there isn't anybody who don't like oneself, right? Or who doesn't love oneself. And so in order to bring happiness to oneself, one will try every kind of means.
You rather love yourself? Right? I'm the best one. Right? You say, very best. Today you buy the water,
so anyway, so many of these problems or troubles of the body, of the external body, can be resolved by applying external means. And then the second problem, the physical, the mental problem. And so the mental problem, unless you use your some kind of means within the mind itself, then it is not possible. Otherwise, it's not possible to resolve by depending on external means. And so if you compare the physical sufferings and the mental sufferings, the mental suffering is more severe. So if the person doesn't have any mental sufferings, so even if he's or she's going through some kind of physical sufferings, he will be able to handle them quite well. So people without much wealth will think that if I have plenty of wealth, I'll have no problem at all, right?
And
then also people who are not very famous will think that if I become famous, then I will have no problems at all. I will be very happy. So that's how we think in general, right?
아니 딱 같이 라시적인 음식이 뭐.
But there are many rich people and many famous people who commit suicide.
대 가르치는 것도 있나? 나 생각 대화하는 거 있나? 쉬는데 가슴이 가슴 좀 편도 말해서 딱 무슨 어쩌지 모르겠어.
And so that's because even if your mind is not happy, and no matter how much wealth you have, how famous you are externally, that will not, satisfy you.
다 지금 알아서 한다고 지. 지레라 말라가라 지금 그러대가대. 같이 쉬는데 다 같이 곧 무슨 말 나와야 돼. semana kami taat nawa ita, ko tinte kami ise ke was, tar ki chana yedi.
And so people like ordinary people like ourselves, who don't have much but who are not also desperate like that. So those people, we don't go to that extreme to having to commit suicide and so forth. So of course there are sufferings in general, but we're not that. Not as much as those extreme ones.
It is hard water. Hard weather, hard water is very good. That's believe? Maybe not this country doesn't believe. Hard water, hard weather, hard water. Usually when we are thirst, we drink hard water, very easy to calm down. If you drink cold, then we have to drink more. Anyway. 어떻게 봐야 다음 생기까지 있어야 돼. 내가 지금 지랄을 해서 봐.
So therefore, the mental problem is a very crucial thing.
아니 페이스 보셔야 돼. 담블레 페이스 보셔야 돼. 생각도 못 해고 무슨 보셔야 말이고.
And to bring a peace in the world can be only done through the mind, not through the body.
다음 나도 강가를 페이스를 가고 이러고 왔어.
We all like peace, right?
peace 해야 돼. 담보도 가고 곳으로 줘.
So where do we start in the peace part?
We start to outside country and bring that back, or inside country, or inside from outside. What do you got to think?
Ourselves.
Sozonas. Oh, that's good. 답변은 담보 소소 뭐 선바 시대 유지 와이나 메디가 뭐 간디지 힘이나 간디 제가 말 고불랑 말 왔어.
So, for example, if the person himself or herself is a very peaceful person, then she or he will not give much trouble to other people, right?
다 남이지만 남이 직패나 쇼와 때문에 양나 부부치 공부 차오지 와나 남이 간가 루르지는 가려면으로 사는 지금 공부 지어나 남이 간가 맞춰서
So, for example, if there is one person in the family who is very angry all the time, and then if they gather together to eat together, if the person shows anger, then everybody there becomes unhappy, right?
다 남이들 간가지 파티 찍찍 술거다 정보에 와나 아니 가라지 사와나 개무시 봐봐서 기부사에 와서.
And if they are very peaceful and always smiling and laughing at each other, then even when they eat together, they can eat very happily.
아니 된적이 미사디 침대다 봐야 미사도 코로나 비스 봐 침대다 봐야 다 아까리 샴보스 아 투보야
So if that family is always in that peace, that will also bring peace to the people outside in the neighborhoods, right?
근데 바치 아니 근데 배나 시티 근데 나대 근데 잡아라 봐봐 잡아라.
And so that way it can spread from the neighborhood to the city, and then to the state, and then to the whole nation.
뭐 근데 나 시대에 대해 다 아무 곳에 가는 소설 곳으로
And so therefore the peace and happiness first should start from oneself.
얘나 다 내가 오시라면 왜 가르쳐오래 소설 곳으로.
But that's not easy. It's very difficult to start from oneself.
근데 영화라 만주 남주에게 소설 깨네 단답 조보 야식 마모지 만들 나서 그랬어.
And in order to do that, we have to destroy many of our good friends who have been very close friends with us since we were born.
Wait, who's their close friend? 다 만족 남들 주는 지나 된지를 좁은 예시도 쓰티거나 아니 공로세 지트에서.
And so this, according to Buddhism, those closest friends are anger.
공로 가디에만 만족지 시당 전에 나도 쪼고요 그러는 통을 뭐지? 정말 부자 좋지.
And so the anger will always act as if it is protecting us.
가르드나 만족 직강에 만들어지 쇼서는 카투 공로 걸 바깥에 잡고 왔어.
So, because whenever somebody create a problem for us, immediately the anger will come and sort of protect us, right?
시 전에 지금 아주 딱 먼저 도서를 떼가지고 직접 고여서 지금 먼저 빠지면서 뭐하지? 수술 문제가 막 갑자기 장애로 공로를 봤어.
So it's kind of rising and protecting by going against the things that people do which we don't like.
옛날 공초 때 만주 조본 예술을 해야 만주를 내가 70개나 거예요.
So this anger is, even though it's the closest friend, but it is the one that causes most suffering, most problems.
I think this 예술 문제가는 가리는 나도 제가 딱 그때는 그 뒤나네 소설을 지금 먼저 봐요. 그런 공부 내려야 돼.
And the reason why it's so close, the closest one, is because it's all the time, it's there all the time, especially when someone is causing harm to us and saying bad things or causing harm to us, and then it arises even strongly.
다 그런 거 누구 두실 때는 설 이미지를 갖나 공부들 나만의 깨진 이반에 먼저 생각 소소히 맞죠 시험에 맞죠 그러고.
And the reason why it is the one that who gives or creates the biggest problem is because the moment it arises, it causes oneself to be unhappy and all the people around oneself to be unhappy. And so therefore, will you be able to destroy the anger?
It's too correct. 공로 세대 남주 가나 어디 공로 다 공로지 아니 말자지 그래서 저도 세.
And then the pride and then jealousy. So those are the other friends, other good friends.
저 야구 선보다 더 소소지라 근데 지금 내가 소소 샘도 시대 영웅들이 모두 찍다. 근데 지금
So you can check yourself when these minds, when these emotions, negative emotions are arising, whether one is at peace or not.
아니 잡아서 그래서
Then another one is attachment.
잡아서 해야 된다. 아무나 못 가라. 완전 가지는 지금 부모 지금 여와서 뒤차가는 말에 가지는 대고고 봤어요.
And so attachment, when you talk about attachment, it's not necessarily a sexual attachment.
내 자식이나 먼저 미치래 주제 someone buy 주제 누가 completely, right? They're very very strong touch. You don't want to no one hit or do anything. If someone do something, 다른 뭐지? 이거 도와나? 다른 무슨 슈쇼가 있어.
So and if someone were to even like touch it, or scratch it a little bit, then you feel very sad, right?
But this is they show touch. It's not angry, it's just touch. We very touchable. We love them, right? I don't have a car, I don't have an experience, but I have one. I have one new computer. My computer is completely new. And one other guy comes, he tried to help me something. He touched it and I screamed his finger. Our finger is very dirty, a lot of oil. Then immediately I said, oh, you touched my finger. No, because I'm very strong touch, I don't want to be dirty, very strong touch. Oh, you touched my skin. My computer is very dirty. That time I have very strong touch. Right now, my computer, I can write the letter in my yes, so you to show me.
So right now I have so much dust that I can draw a letter with my finger.
It is not angry, it's not jealous, but it's touch. First, it's strong touch. Then someone should do something, then they're getting so angry, also hit others. Try to do this. 드리마다 내가 공부 말자 저도 먼저 저거 예술을 그냥 먼저 내가 최주정이 말해서.
So therefore, these the negative emotions like attachment, anger, jealousy, pride are our closest friend, but they are the one who cause most suffering to us.
근데 이제 다 피드백하고나 다 두드러만 다 유머 따라서 그래서.
So if we want to have a peace, then we should try to see if we can minimize these negative emotions.
샘바데 샘코랑이 되어마다 왜나 심냄바기 여당 도구 말해 봐.
So the mind can be changed only by mind itself. It can't be changed by taking some drugs or consulting a doctor.
만두변나 샘바강이 와 내가로 지치세요. 말때 가르마 이치메서 봐. 매매 지치에서 매트에서 그 매트에 가서 샘바코랑 내가 무지개 지셔면서 그 샘바 영조 안으로 봐.
So some people, when they are mentally disturbed or unhappy, they go to see a doctor and doctor will prescribe some medicine. I don't believe in that. Medicine doesn't really make the person happy. It just makes the person not be able to think for time being. And at that time, when mind is not functioning, he doesn't seem to have the problem. That's what I understand. But I'm not sure if it's that is how it is.
맨카로 수자면 되는 거 같아. 수자면 이거 나달 편이요 말 왔어. 그냥 이거 나달이 딱 봐서 카드때 카드 받자서 나서 님 편인 거.
So for example, the painkiller doesn't cure the disease, right? It only makes you not to feel the pain. It's similar to that.
어디래요? 근데가 다 생긴 저와 간지도 없는 다 간지도야. 나 공부 사오이, 나 접바 사오이, 나 저도 사오이. 딩마 선배 주 지금은 아마 저 지금은 간지 지어도 나서.
So how do we transform our mind? How do we change our mind from having these a lot of these delusions to not have them at all?
다 등속이 님을 상담하고 그래서 그냥 공쪽으로 사와 있나 딩은 저라 가요. 아니 저도 사와도 딩은 저라 가요. 대성만 그래서.
So then you have to think about the disadvantage of these delusions and the bad results that come from these delusions. You have to think about that. And so what happens if I get angry? What happens if I'm too attached? And so then you have to think about all those disadvantages of having anger and attachment and so forth.
근데 저것도 무슨 말이나 저 약간 매워 좀 맞아요. 당신도 제가 봤어.
And so if you identify the result or the outcome of that delusion, then we'll say, oh, I don't want to have that because I'm going to suffer as a result.
내 차샤와이나 저 보스턴 다운타운이나 밖에는 가서 사도식 집에 왔어.
For example, when we go to downtown Boston, we're very, very careful about where we park our cars.
각자들이 빨리 하고 마시나 저렇게 저렇게 왔어. 결제를 왔어.
So because if we don't park properly in a right spot, then then we might get a ticket, right? And so the reason why we're afraid of that is because we don't want to get tickets.
대단 ticket 무슨 말로 내 ticket 와.
So what happens if you get the ticket? It harms your pocket, right?
Right. 그러니까 소소팀 저도 냐님을 전다 그래도 사도 지금 전도 그래 자급기 처음 나타나야 무슨 다시 말해 봐.
So because you don't want to experience that problem, because you don't want to because you don't want your pockets to be harmed, and therefore you don't just park anywhere. And otherwise, I don't think it's because you follow the rules of the country.
Right? What it is that? 저것도 약보면 시위하자. 단 저것도 수수고 많이 하고. 저것도 요 그때도 많이 하고 다니고 지금 봤어.
So if you understand that the result is not going to be good, then you will try not to create the cause for that, right?
그러나 방송도 스치 동안으로 조금 더.
Same like nobody wants to go to prison, right?
그러나 시다 통과를 하나 그도 가르쳐고 내가 처음 한테 예대 주고 왔어.
But on the other hand, you can be relaxed in there, right? You don't have to work. You don't have to worry about anything. They will give you the food. They will give you a place to stay, right? But because we know is not good in there, it's not very happy to be in the prison. Therefore, we try not to go to prison. Right?
In this country, that we even go jail, maybe that is a bit. In India, China, it wasn't there. But it was.
So they will be beaten a lot in the prison. So if you go into the prison, then you lost your freedom, right? So how we go into prison is because if we break the law of the country, right? And so because we don't want to go to the prison, therefore we observe the law of the country. And especially in this country, people always observe the law or respect the law, and therefore there are less problems.
In many other countries, they don't follow the laws. Whoever the fast, whoever get the door, they can go. But today in that country, just somebody that take a driver, Yapo, driver, the Yapo, Shiriwana, and take a jet in my own taxi. But Chilhan was very hard.
So if you understand the result of that cause, then you will not create the cause. You will not create. It will be easier, to not create the cause if you understand the result, right?
얘나 대가리고 싫어하잖아. 또 새로 뭔가 공대하다 지금 내려오는 거 말이야,
So of course it's going to be very difficult because we're not used to doing that. Used to do that since beginner's time, therefore it becomes very difficult.
얘나 대가로 써먹던 거 얘나 그 내가 매도 시험 매거든 말이야.
But if we think about it, it's not something that cannot be changed or cannot be understood.
단단 나도 내가 지하도 당분간 나도 시험을 매 봤어. 뭐라 봐야도 저 감기라 지하도 이게 되는 건 당분 시험을 매워.
So, for example, anything that we do now, like the driving, the working with the computer and so forth, we didn't understand all those from the beginning, right? But you come to understand gradually by studying about it, right? And sometimes we don't even know that we're making a mistake while we're making a mistake. And so temporarily that's not really a problem because we're kind of accustomed to that action since we've been this lifetime, therefore we just tend to do it. For example, I'll give you an example, whether it makes sense or not, you can check it yourself. Like we wake up early in the morning, and then we go take a shower or take a bath or wash ourselves, and then we apply all these makeups on our body, on our face, and so forth, right? And so you put all those makeups, to look good, right? But outside, when you're outside there, and if someone looks at you, then you get angry right away, right? If someone look at you or rather stare at you, then you get angry, right? You say, what are you looking at?
This one person stretched to look at me. And then, I'm meet I to do Yamucho, meet Danchom, that is not catch out.
So you make it, you put all these methods for to look beautiful to others, but then you don't want other people to look at you.
Then also Mambo younger, tell some
So it happens a lot, right? So what do you think? Does it happen to you? So if you put a makeup, if someone doesn't come and look at you from the front, they will not see it from behind, right? But if someone come and look at you from the front, then you will say, what are you looking at, right? So that kind of contradicts, right? What are you doing is, for other people to look, but then, when other people look at you, you don't like it. So because that's because we're very accustomed with these delusions, and we're not even aware of the mistakes that we're making. So that's the way it is in Buddha's teaching. So the topic that we're studying here now is about mind and mental factors, or object and mind and the knowers.
And she 이번에 받은 세리들이 다 빠져 따지체네 빠졌다. 아마 타로 그리고 체력.
So external things, we can come to a conclusion about external things, through the scientific research and so forth.
아니 저와 한가라 미국 다투고 있어요.
We can even give a name to all of these things.
다 나도 제가 잘라내는 점을 로 그가를 요해서.
So we have a separate mind apprehending or grasping all these different objects. So there are many different kind of things, right? The things that we eat, things that we see, things that we smell, things that we hear. All these things. Do you think there's only one mind grasping or apprehending all these different kind of objects, or there are different minds apprehending the different objects?
What do you think? What? Different? Yeah, different. What? Different? Yeah. Today, by so,
for example, what cognizes the sound? What cognizes the sound? Does the eye recognize the sound?
What?
What about the nose?
What?
What about tongue? Can tongue recognize sound? So it has to be what? Ear, right? The ear consciousness. For example, the flavor of the food. Can you recognize the flavor of food by looking with your eyes? You might say, oh, it looks delicious, it looks very good. But whether it's really delicious or not, depends on whether you touch it with your tongue or not, right? So to know it's really delicious, you have to touch it with your tongue. So there are different minds recognizing the different kind of objects. Whether the food has a good fragrance or not, can it be recognized by the tongue? So you need the nose consciousness, right, to recognize it. And so there are many different kinds of consciousnesses or awarenesses like that. So in Buddhism we have different terms or names for these different kind of awarenesses. And so all these kinds of consciousness are within our mind, but it's just that we don't know them, by their names. So if you combine it, all the mind, all different kind of minds can be combined into 7 kind of minds. So these 7 kind of minds can be again divided into 2, like valid mind and non-valid mind. And so the valid mind, the mind that is that's new, incontrovertible, and no work, right? So, for example, if you haven't seen me before and then you see me for the first time today, then that mind which sees me today, is the valid mind, the valid mind. And so there's the valid mind. There are 2 kind of the valid minds: the direct valid mind and inferential valid mind. So the direct valid mind, is usually the object, is the sense direct and the sense consciousnesses, like the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, so forth, that directly sees or recognizes the object. And then the inferential mind, is the mind that recognizes the object by depending on its sign or logics. So you can understand where the person is from by looking at his or her name, right? Which country he's from.
He or she, that's your way. And media, Tamo, sweet, Lumakan Haku, Paris. And then media or better American, Cardinal, me, I'm looking at French. French, talk about the French, which is Toyna. That made it to go Kawaii Haku.
So by looking at their name, you can understand where they're from, which country they're from. Like for example, if the person's name is Tashi or Dorji, you can say, oh, he's Tibetan because his name is Tashi or Dorji. So whether whether he's from France or whether he's Jewish or what, you can understand by looking at that name, right?
What today is a take over? What? But even if we are not good, oh, yeah, not Jewish. That's your boss.
So you don't know the person directly, whether this person, whether he's French or American, but he says, oh, he has this name, so he must be American. So here you come to understand that person is American by looking at his name. So the name is the sign or the reason for you to understand a person is a miracle.
For example, also in Tibet is in here, a lot of things, and we know who give this person his name. We don't want to ask the person. We say, oh,
so not in every case, but in many cases, it's His Holiness the Lama, whose name is Tenzin Gyatso. So whenever he gives name, a Dharma like a Dharma name to somebody, then he always have Tenzin at the beginning. Tenzin something, Tenzin Gyatso, Tenzin Hundu, Tenzin something, and so forth. So Tenzin, it all starts with Tenzin. So if somebody's name is Tenzin, then in French we can understand the person's name was given by His Holiness. And so by looking at the name, and then you develop this mind or conception, thinking that must be given by His Holiness. And so those are all those two are the valid minds or valid cognizers. And so now today we start from the non-valid mind, or non-valid cognition. It's in page 32, if you have the text with you. And so there are 5 non-valid consciousnesses. And so the definition of the valid cognizer is the new incontrovertible knower. And so now you have to just change it, opposite of that. And so there it says, right? So it says a knower that is not newly incontrovertible. So that would be the definition of non-valid cognition, of consciousness. Lorig, what is that? So incontrovertible means what? It means like the way it is, right? It should be the way you see it. If you see it as a table, it should be a table. That's incontrovertible.
I think the term like the milua is from the Sanskrit of Brahma, which it has to do with the theory that the mind and the thing which the mind contacts should match.
Should match, yeah.
So
if your mind sees this as a table, and this is a table, then that's incontrovertible.
Yeah, right.
If mind sees this as a table, but it happens to be a chair, then that's controvertible.
They don't match.
Okay.
So you understand, right? Incontrovertible means? So that's the definition. A knower that is not newly incontrovertible. So then there's the division of that non-valid consciousness, non-valid cognizer, and there are 5 divisions. And the first one is called the subsequent cognizer, and the definition of the subsequent cognizer is knower that realizes what has already been realized. And then the second one is called correctly assuming consciousness. So the definition of that will come later, but it's something that appears, but it's not very clear to the mind.
대부분 하나만 쳐주세요. 간제 코로나 나가도 문이 임바지 이나 딱 나가도 이마도 다 못동이시. 이치세. 나가도 문이 왜요?
또
이나 딱 소바 딱 또.
또 이거.
저거. 소리 딱 맞도. 또.
또. 내가 또.
그래서가 또. 그래서 일단 왜 망해 와서 일단 뭐 그래서 이제 일단 망해 오지 또 그러나
그런 게 다 가서 그런 게 신경을 나와서 실어서 서로 그런 게 신경들아 해도 좋아서
대신 맞다 와야 돼
못 와서 그래 또 와야 돼 그래
그래서 일단 맞다
일단
다음 까지 하나 강하다 드시라고 하는데요. 근데 이체에 하나 하나 먹어봐. 대손 요새다 나서 따뜻하게 생기로 지방을 말했어.
So anyway, the details will come later, but there are 5 of them. The first one is subsequent cognizer, second is the probably assuming consciousness, and the third one is called awareness to which an object appears but is not ascertained. And the fourth one is doubting consciousness, and the fifth one is the wrong consciousness.
그러다 대참질로 되가라 참만이네별로 당한들로 망치가 태는 줄이고.
And so those are 5 non-valid consciousnesses, and on top of that, you add the 2 valid consciousnesses, and that makes 7 minds, 7 awarenesses.
다 남중나도 지금 역도고여로 와, 이 신경을 또 다 물론 누구 내가 지내고 와.
So this, so all the minds, all kinds of minds are included in these 7 minds. All the minds that performs the function of seeing, thinking, and so forth.
어디 다도 뭐도 제시 다또 쪽에가 제시 재미있어 와.
So the first one is the subsequent cognizer, the definition of which is a knower that realizes what has already been realized.
다또 쪽에 봤을 때 아니 같이 10 세마끼지 이빠디 말이야. 이빠디.
So the knower that realizes what has already been realized is actually the second moment of the valid cognizer.
이제 그 세막 남아랑 되지 세마끼지 이빠디끼지 다 먹은 적을 봤어.
So the second moment is the result of the first moment, right?
근데 이제 깨지 다 먹기 싫다. 딱 니슈로 많이 내라. 그러면 뭐지? 이래 같이 막고 분명히 니슈처럼 딱 얘네 똥이 딱 내려오는
So actually, it's the mind which recognizes the thing, and then in the second moment of that cognition, it becomes the subsequent cognizer. So that mind has not degenerated, and it's still there. In the continuation of that mind is still there, but it keeps changing. Right? In the second moment, it becomes subsequent cognizer.
아니 여기 제소가 있나? 다 먹는 거 좀 도와서 뒤 제소가 나는 도와이나? 근데요. 자 제일 적어요. 정말 되겠어.
So if you cognize the thing which you have forgotten before, so you have cognized it before, you know it before, but then after some time you forgot it, and then later again you see it. Then that time it doesn't become subsequent cognizer, it becomes again you're seeing it for the first time like that. So it becomes valid cognizer. And so anyway, that's called the subsequent cognizer.
제시에서 안에 자막 마음에 또 선배 얘라 소중문에 나도 제막고 또 쉬는 거고 나도 지금 반대로 나도 제시 거.
So the subsequent cognizer doesn't have to work on cognizing the object. It's already been cognized, right? It's already cognized by the valid cognizer, so it's the continuation of cognition, continuation of that cognition.
야 대만이야. 원래는 저도 나한테나 나로 지금 대리 통해서 다 산이 저기잖아. 나도 그 생활 영화에 왔어요. 이나. 근데 대화 말이 대도 생활 영화에 그랬어. 그러면 여 캐내고 그랬어.
And so today, for example, you see me for the first time, and that is the valid cognizer seeing me. Then what about tomorrow? Will you have the valid cognizer of seeing me tomorrow?
다 나중에 대제 아니 또 별로라야 제시로 요래 아니 세만 어떻게 되냐면 딱 생각이 요래서 개념이 그래서.
And so tomorrow, your mind of tomorrow, which cognizes me, that is this value cognizer, which cognizes me tomorrow, but also at the same time there is the subsequent cognizer, so they go together.
그러니까 대략 세마 또 별로 뒤에 내지 심어서 그러다 심한데 제시 맞지. 대 많이 그냥 로다 서로 계획이 그래서.
So, for example, today's mind, which sees me or the object for the first time, is the value cognizer. So, the second moment of that value cognizer becomes the subsequent cognizer. So that's without degenerating the continuation of that mind. And so that will be like subsequent cognizer tomorrow.
야 산이 나 싸워 주는 거지. 자신 죽고 있어. 또 도배야? 또 싸워게.
So the mind, which sees me tomorrow, will be the eye that you see tomorrow, will be different from the eye that you see today, right? The eye, I become, I change also, right? The eye change, and today's me will be different from tomorrow's me, right? And so tomorrow, when you see that tomorrow's me, then that will be new, right? Something that you're seeing for the first time, and new, and therefore it will become valuable. So if someone were to ask you, where is tomorrow? What would you say? Where is tomorrow?
It's not here.
We don't think that. We never think about it. We say, tomorrow they come in. But if someone asks, where is tomorrow? What can we say?
I'm done yet. I'm ready yet. You have to wait. I can show you tomorrow.
그래서 산이 하나씩 조제를 왔어. 데일라들은 산이 샤워를 왔어.
So tomorrow is yet to come, right? So tomorrow depends on today, right?
Where yesterday?
Sorry, that's already over. That's already finished.
Yeah. Today, tomorrow, yesterday, that's all the color.
So yesterday, today, tomorrow are all interdependent.
Not today, not tomorrow, not yesterday. 100%. Not yesterday, not today, not tomorrow. Therefore, that three
Interdependent.
interdependent. Today, that's 산이 기시나 조용하러 왔어.
So the tomorrow's Vishla is not existing yet, right?
I just didn't call it. If you have not, no 자는 나도 얘라고 그거라고 해서 그 잠깐 너무 됐다. 그거도 계속 잖아.
So if you are, if you have been familiar with these terms and ideas, then it will be very easy to understand. Otherwise, you become like crazy people talking about.
What talk about tomorrow? Really that tomorrow but today is that 대리 가서 또 별로지. 되게 전심하는 산이라 말 놓으려 그랬어. 그냥 되게 이제 땅 놓고 들로 전에다 산이라 고쳐지지 않았어. 그냥 되게 가다들이라 그냥 산이 맞도 별로야. 싸우면 깨요.
So today you know me, you recognize me, today you see me, right? And then that mind continues, that mind which saw me continues. So it's in second, third, fourth moment, it becomes subsequent cognizer. So today's mind which saw me continues to tomorrow, and that mind tomorrow is the subsequent cognizer. But then tomorrow, the mind which sees me tomorrow, will be there will be also a value cognizer, because then tomorrow, the tomorrow which you see me, that me can be also very new, right? Which didn't exist before. So you are seeing it for the first time. Therefore, it can become value cognizer.
다 어느 때 도와주세요. 어느 대륙의 제목은 대지심어 산이 동이다. 산이 이게 되는 그 산이 싸워 저와를 왔어. 그 제시 말로 왔다 나와야 나서.
And then there can be another doubt, thing that that mind which cognizes me today, so that continuation of that mind also changes, right? So tomorrow's mind will be different from today's mind which cognizes me. So therefore that mind is not a subsequent cognizer. You can say that, right?
다 오늘 가르쳤나? 가서 다 산이 로티게 아니 가리 동으로나 가서 동화되다 차라고 직접 직장 그런 동에 완자 따들고 제시해야 돼서.
But because it's the continuation of that mind, which saw me today, right? So tomorrow's mind is the continuation of the mind which saw me today. So tomorrow, when it sees me, it will be seeing exactly the same as what it saw today. Therefore, it is seeing what it has already seen before, right? So that's the definition of the subsequent mind. Recognized was already recognized.
가서 산이 가서 지금 계좌 처음 많이 와야 하나 와서 하는 거 그러면 어떻게 와서.
So tomorrow, when you see me, you don't have to check with somebody. You don't have to ask somebody, or somebody don't have to tell you who I am because you saw me yesterday already. And so today, when you see me, you already know me.
그래서 대리 시와 대다 천라와 그럼 지금 지정에서 선이한테 대로 대리라도 12와자 제시 인생 빼셔야
So because it is the mind which knows me tomorrow and it knows exactly the same as what it knows me today, and so therefore it is subsequent mind.
이따가도 들으라고 사람다고 마치 딴데 시바 인생하고 잘라려다 도도 줘야 근데 제중 그래 주지 futbol에서 진짜 됐다 너무 왔어.
So that's how we think about the mind, to find out about the mind. Otherwise, if it's a solid object, then you can say, oh, you can show it, you can feel it, you can see it, and then you can say, oh, it's like that. But for mind, you can't do that.
다 들리라고 지금 다 상담을 들리라고 가지 다 들리라고 놓고 가지 서만 엄마가 또 선바디 그럼 나오는 나오는 집바로 또 인들하다 제시해서.
So the mind, which knows similar to what it has already known before, is what we have to call it, subsequent cognizing.
So my question is, again, like this issue around new, like the part of the definition, like new, an incontrovertible knower, versus like in these, all of these, one of those things is missing. Either it's not new, or it's not incontrovertible, or it's not a knower. One of those three is missing. So in the sense of new, like that part of the definition, is it, I think we asked before, we talked about it before, if it means like really the only time something is newly known is the first time you ever see it in your life, and then after that it can never be newly known, or if new means like kind of fresh, like the first instant of your eye consciousness striking an object before your mind ascertains the object or identifies it is new. And then once you identify it, you like conceptuality enters into it where you label it, and from that point on, it's no longer new to you. You've recognized it as something you've seen before, but before you, that instant when you recognize it, it still is unrecognized. So it's like new again. So it happens very quickly, but there still is a lapse between like the first second that my eye sees Geshe-la's face to my mind recognizing Geshe-la and applying the label, and therefore it no longer being new. It's now after that subsequent awareness, like I already know that, and now I'm just kind of conceptually identifying him and can move on to recognize other objects in the field.
하지만 어쨌든 생활하다 더 차라로 시작하고 있잖아. 생활에서 거의 또 서로 또 보지를 생활에서 서로 또 보세요. 또들은 산이 계속 또 들이 또 돌아. 그래서 너는 그냥 생활 또 가서 와요. 내가 처음이죠. 생활 처음이었어. 나 이러다. 생활 처음 왔어.
싸워 뛰고.
네. 그래도 제가 이거.
정말 싸워 되게 뛰고.
네. 다들 처음 오셨잖아요. 근데 제가 그때 전에도 그걸 어떻게 지고 되거든요. 원래 저가. 그때 저가. 네, 그래서 일단 소리 가래.
I'm just curious about whether the newly, like this part of the definition for new, means the first time you've ever seen something is the only time it could be new, if that's what it means, or if it means the first moment of an awareness identifying an object, even if it's an object you saw. So, for example, I saw Geshe last week, and then I saw him again today. The first moment that my eye saw him, like as he came in a room or something, like my eye has to have an awareness of the shape before it can identify it. So in that instant where he is just a shape and a color, my mind has identified that's Geshe, even if it's very quick, should be new, right?
But the question is that the south is south the So there are both minds there at that time. So when you're seeing the Geshe, you're seeing the new Geshe also, right? So therefore there will be a new. It's seen for the first time.
Yeah.
But you have also the mind which is seeing similar to what you have seen before. Therefore, it's not new, the old, the subsequent cognizer. So there is a part, that is a valid cognizer, and there is a part that's a subsequent cognizer. So that's what it means by the two of them coming together. So if you don't posit that as a valid cognizer, then you have to say there will be no valid cognizer of Geshe tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, and then you have to say that there is no valid cognizer in the continuum of the Arya Bodhisattva cognizing a base.
Right.
Because he has cognized base long time ago. So that at that time when he's cognizing base, you have to say it is definitely not a valid cognizer. And so at that time, you have to say there is both valid cognizer and subsequent cognizer, cognizing the object. So you're seeing it for the first time, right?
Yeah.
You're not able to see, and the moment later thing. This is now 2 seconds later. What I'm seeing is new, but I'm not able to cognize that it's new.
Right.
So it's just 2 seconds ago. It wasn't there. It is established right now after 2 seconds, and that thing is new. So my mind will see it's new.
Yeah.
But I'm not able to cognize. I'm thinking, oh, this is the same table that I'm seeing, which I saw yesterday, which I saw last year, which I saw 10 years ago.
Yeah, that depends on.
You can become very subtle also. You can go to a very subtle point, but then you can see as it grows, as the same being same.
But on one level or another, it requires like identifying the thing. Like that's what I saw before.
That's right. Yeah. So in that way, because you have the same continuum of the mind, which is the same continuum, right?
Yeah.
You saw yesterday, and the mind itself is also changing, but it's the same continuum of the mind.
Yeah.
And therefore it is within one continuum, within a single continuum. Therefore, everything that's afterwards, is subsequent cognizance.
Yeah, right.
When that continuum breaks, so, after last you saw 10 years ago, and then 5-6 years later, you forgot it completely, and then when you see it, it will be a new continuum of seeing that thing.
Like someone with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
One of my friend's grandfather had a severe Alzheimer's, and every 5 minutes he forgot everything. So everything was new. Even he just turned his head and he forgot what's there. So he'll say, "Oh, who are you?" again and again. Look over here, and then again ask you, oh, who are you? Nice to meet you. So for him, it's like...
It's all right. Okay? 네, 당은 다 내려와는 전이치 다 이제 대라에나 똑같이 동의지신이 해서 지 대라에서 지시 똑같이 되는 것이 성취와
So then when it says subsequent cognizer divided, there are three: directly perceiving subsequent cognizer, conceptual subsequent cognizer, and subsequent cognizers that are neither of those two.
한도 가지 나는 말까지 다들 직감은 몰라도 더 제시는 지만도 다 이참한테 기신이 봤으면 기신이 봐서 그만 놓아야 되지. 그 무슨 게임 왔어.
그래서
이참한테 기신이 봤 기신이 봤으니까 또 집까지잖아요.
So anyway, so all these different kind of divisions, like the directly perceiving subsequent cognizer and conceptual subsequent cognizer, all these are like the second moment of that.
다 대라에서 지시 똑같이 되는 것이 성취. 다 동반아 옹이 인계 가림에 나중에서 아니 이제 가능한 것이 많이 돼서
And then for directly perceiving subsequent cognizer, there are five. Directly perceiving subsequent cognizer, there are sense direct perceiver, there are mental direct perceiver, there are self-knowing direct perceiver, there are yogic direct perceiver, and there are none of those four.
다 동반은 중종 기신이 받아.
And the first, it says, for example, is the second moment of sense direct perceiver apprehending blue.
대공이 딱 공이 지시와 근데 이게 제대로 기신이 받아.
So there's subsequent cognizer that are sense direct perceiver, and then there's sense direct perceiver that are mental direct perceiver. Subsequent cognizer that are mental direct perceiver is the second one, which is, for example, is the second moment of clairvoyance, knowing another's mind.
아니 순간에다 아니 하는 게 사다는 미신이 하는 게 기신이 받아.
And for the subsequent cognizer that are self-cognizer, self-knowing, direct perceiver, this is the third. Is, for example, the second moment of self-knowing direct perceiver, experiencing an I consciousness and so forth.
아니 저와 나중에 사다는 동화파처럼 기신이 받아.
And then the fourth one, the yogic one, is that which is the yogic direct perceiver, is the second moment of an uninterpreted part of the path of seeing.
아니 대중 고려 많이 지내는 게 기신이 받았어. 그래서 이 공공에 지내는 네가 받았다. 공공에서 기신이 받았다. 공공에서 지내서 말다. 이게 고려 말했어.
And the fifth, which is neither of those four, are is, for example, the second moment of the direct perceiver. So direct perceiver is neither of those four.
어디시 다 되죠. 다 이바 똑같이 제라나 내 디제트는 똑같이 제바도 똑같이 이해와.
And then now the second one, which is the conceptual subsequent cognizer, and then there are two conceptual subsequent cognizer that are induced by direct perceiver, and conceptual subsequent cognizer that are induced by inferential cognizers.
간제 공부 tembe, 가성이야 대리 tembe 대시지 어떻게 진행을 하는 거야?
So anyway, saying that you have to know what you have the memory. Today you have the memory of what you saw yesterday, right? And the second moment of that. So you can imagine what you have, or you can remember what you have in your house, even though you're still sitting here in this hall, but you can remember what you have in your house, right? And then it says the second one, is the conceptual subsequent cognizer that are induced by the inferential cognizer, is the second moment of the inferential cognizer realizing the sound, as to be impermanent. And so there is there's a mind which recognizes the sound to be impermanent, and so the mind recognizing sound to be impermanent. And the second moment of that is called the subsequent cognizer. And so somebody says, oh, the sound is impermanent because it's a product. And it says, if it's a product, it has to be impermanent. Therefore, sound is impermanent. And so the impermanence and its product are synonymous. It's just that they have the same meaning but different names.
보도 본이 주발이 자 보도 본 주발이 인가 제주는 별로 주의도 들었어.
보세요, 보죠, 뭐
이거 거야.
보세요, 매세, 매.
먼저 로 자시가 보도 버려서 그래서 저는 로 자시가 보도 버려서
보세요. 그거는 뭐죠? 뭐예요?
보다 들으려고 하지 제대로 때에 얘도 또 별로 제발로 가지.
So anyway, so coming to understand something to be something by depending on the reason. By depending on the reason is called inferential mind.
오케이, 다 들으려고 그래. 그래서 제시해서 하는 거 감사해요.
So anyway, so that is the subsequent cognizer.
이 시발이 나와서 저래 열에 다 가지 시발이 다 미에서 수술하고 가지 딱 뒤에서 하고.
So we have this kind of minds. It's just that we don't know what it's called and so forth, right? So now when someone explains to you this is the mind and it's called subsequent cognizer, then you know it.
오늘 며칠 전에 가지는 데 시발도 나도 갖고 오서 나와 있나 줘.
And someone might ask, so what if they are there? If they are this and that, why do we have to know this and that mind?
시발은 나도 잘라가나 모시고 그 시발지 않아 봤어.
It's the same, right? We have to understand we have to know all the things. Just like that, we have to know all these minds.
소수기는 시발 그러지 마시. 단 내일만 네 월마다 시발하면 뭐래. 그냥 내리 너와 네 걸로 내려고.
So there are many different kind of objects. When you perceive this, it is called this mind. When you perceive that, it is called this mind.
Okay. Then you have any other questions? We don't want to mess one too far. Any other questions?
Yeah. Go ahead.
What question was?
I was going to ask this last week, but we're running out of time.
I already forgot.
So that's the subsequent cognition.
I think what Geshe talked about last week was my question was about emptiness, because Geshe talked about the I. Last week he talked about the I as being a mere label. And I remember I was going to ask, like even on a conventional level, whether or not the I exists even conventionally, because, for example, we can at least point to like there's a cup, there's a table, book. We can at least even in a general sense we can say that that's what it is. But the I is always changing all the time, even conventionally. Like we'd say my body is the self, or the mind is the self, or this is the self. So even on a conventional level, the idea of I is kind of ridiculous because it's always changing.
Conventional level, table, you can point to the table.
And I'm just speaking in like a general sense, we can at least say that that's a table. But then if we analyze further, it's... So I'm wondering, does the I even exist conventionally? Because I know they say it's a label.
The concept of the concept was the concept of moral that yeah, there is I, right? There is I, conventional I. There is I who is walking with the I, who is driving, right? So that is the conventional I.
Exactly, right?
Kind of. I would say the body is walking and driving and all that.
But you don't.
It's
You
a
say
good kind of-
you say I'm hungry or I'm
I'm
going to
hungry.
work, right? You don't say my body is going to work.
That's mistaken. But that's still mistaken though.
Why
I
is
still
it mistaken?
believe-
You are going to work. You're talking now.
But that's me thinking that the body is the
It's
I.
not him
It's
talking.
not.
It's not him talking, it's his mouth
I
talking.
don't know. You think your body go all the way to the go? Not just said. You just think. So say you go home, you body go.
That's what I think. I think I go to work.
Yeah, therefore you can go home, right? You eat, right?
If I think it doesn't mean it's right. It could be ridiculous because most
But
of
that's what
things.
the meaning of conventional though. It's like conventionally, it's just shared among people that when you say like, give me that book, we're talking about the book over there. Ultimate means like you've thought about this book is real. This is a real book that's the same one as yesterday. It's like attributing characteristics that are enduring, like after analyzing in some way or thinking about it. But regular people, when they say things conventionally, just like I'm going here, I'm going there, they're not wrong. Like if they say the building is on fire, you can't argue. Well, the building isn't real, so like, you know, there's no like, the building is burning down. Like, it's there.
Yeah, that's
Where's the building?
Yeah.
Which one is building? The wall is building? Or window is
Exactly.
building?
Exactly.
He said, I don't care, it's building, this is crazy, you know. You have to go something to it. He said, that does not exist there, not that. And he said, I don't have a job. Jobs not exist there.
Yeah.
So anyway, the I, yeah. I does it is conventional.
So conventionally just means basically in general. It doesn't. Is
So it means by convention.
By convention. 본점은 뭐였어야 돼? 지당은 여와서 본점 뭐였어?
No, he doesn't too much.
So if it occurs, if it is incontrollable with the way it appears, then you can call it conventional existence. So to us, again, there can be different level of conventional existence. So to our level and to the Arya beings level, it's different.
They do a care, don't care. I don't know.
So you can say there is a book, you can read the book, you can carry the book, you can turn the pages of the book, so there is a book, right? So that's the conventional book. And just like that, I is there, I can eat, I can drive, I can walk, I can talk, and so that's I there.
Books have no show, no to tell me the book, show chicken, pass,
So, if you can point at the book in that way, conventional book, if you can think of the conventional book, conventional table, it's exactly the same with the I. The I is a mere level given to that, to the aggregate of, to these aggregates, right? So same thing, the book is called, book is a name given to this collection of the pages and putting together, binding, and all these things called the book. And if you look for the book one by one, you will not find book.
Okay, good, but you have to think about more, okay?
So just like that. Same with the I.
You're saying I is a little more ridiculous because.
No, everything has to be
Because you
same.
think too much.
How much you want? 원인은 돈을 찍어라.
가지고 너무 상담 안 했어요.
So yeah, when you talk about conventional truth or the ultimate truth, the emptiness, it applies same to everybody. There's nothing exists from this whole side. So it cannot be like something exists from the side. Other things are not existing from this whole side. So nothing, not even emptiness itself, exists from this whole side.
Okay.
So on the conventional level, then would I be something uncommon? Because, for example, if everybody looks at the book, they can all agree it's a book. But if everybody looks at me, they won't say I, they'll say Ian. So would I be like something uncommon versus something common?
가면 돼. 아니 가면 돼. 그게 애 가면 돼. 아이
So
소소소소.
I is to me, right? I don't say I to you, I say I to me, You don't say I to me, you say I to yourself, right? Yeah, so that's common to everybody. I say I to me, he says I to him, you say I to you, she says I to her, so that's common.
There's some.
But of course, Ian, when they say Ian, the other people will say Ian, so that's common.
He said, he pointed Ian, said I, this is good mistake.
Is there some like saying like Tanya
Yeah.
This tiny little.
Tanya means like it's established by
Nominally.
Yeah,
Existing
just,
nominally.
just nominally. That's what conventional. The Tanya even means convention, like a convention, a term that's used commonly for people. The other one, kunzo, doesn't actually mean conventional. That's like a kind of interpolation of the meaning. It means something else, but conventionally, Tanya means like we use the name for that, just the name, and most people people don't think about whether it exists ultimately or not. They just call it that, and everyone understands they're talking about this object. So just merely, like, by just calling it that, it's okay. It exists like that, as a thing you can call, and people will understand you.
It's the same, actually it's the same thing. Conventional existing, nominal existing, kunzo-yoga, tani-yoga is same.
Yeah.
So of course,
the term is different in
the term is different, name is different, but the same meaning.
Yeah.
Okay, look at it. Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't talk too much. This is now we got change of the thought. Now we get cold. You are cold? Before we come here, very nice. Now we are getting cold.
Now we can go out into the sun.
This we call Jivituma.
Suffering change.
So no change. Meeting this is happening, right? Before we come in, oh, very nice cold. Now we go out very hot. Okay. Thank you, everybody.